Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MTG Traders. My name is Taryn, and this is Budget Simic Merfolk. Okay, so in the previous videos, I did go over a Simic Merfolk build that I really liked, but this one is actually only about 11 or 12 tickets on MTGOtraders.com, and I couldn't help but try it out and see what I could do with it, and it actually does a lot of good work for us, and I'm excited to show it with you today. But of course, before we get into the video, make sure you hit the like on the video if you like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell right beside the subscription button to know when we upload a video on the channel and when we go live on the stream right here on YouTube. But without further ado, let's get right into it. We have 4 Kumina's Speaker, a 1-mana 1/1 Merfolk Shaman, and it gets a +1/+1 as long as you control another Merfolk or an island. So this is a fantastic 1-drop for us that turns into a 2/2 that can actually get in turn over turn and be a great just early game beater for us that actually just grows. The next card for us is actually not a Merfolk, it's a Slitherblade. It's a 1-mana 1/2 Naga Rogue. It's a 4 here. Slitherblade can't be blocked. So if you can kind of tell from this card here, the rest of the deck is kind of building up to be this like unblockable pump-centric creature deck that can kind of kill by turn 6 or 7 if not dealt with correctly. But moving on from Slitherblade, we have 4 Deeproot Warrior, a 2-mana 2/2 Merfolk Warrior. Whenever Deeproot Warrior becomes blocked, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So that's a great way to make it a 3/3. Again, it can be with combat tricks and stuff like that, it can be a 4/4, 5/5, that kind of stuff, keep going. But it is a fantastic way to continue pressing the advantage of our aggro strategy. Moving up from Deeproot, we have 4 Merfolk Branchwalker, a 2-mana 2/1 Merfolk Scout, and when it enters the battlefield, we explore. So of course, that means we look at the top card of our library. If it's a land, it goes into our hand. If it's not, we can choose to put it on the top of our deck or into the graveyard, and it gives Merfolk Branchwalker +1/+1 counter. Because there are only 21 lands in the deck, Merfolk Branchwalker is going to be a fantastic way to kind of sift through our deck to get the lands out of our deck quicker, or to make sure we kind of get the next play out as quickly as possible to make sure that our next play is going to be the most efficient play we can make. There have been many times where I will throw a card into the graveyard if it's not a land, just because I'm trying to look for that 3rd or 4th land drop in the like turn 2, turn 3 kind of spot. But moving on from the Branchwalker, we have 4 River Sneak. This is again the other non-unblockable creature here. It's a 2-mana 1/1 Merfolk Warrior, can't be blocked, and of course, whenever another Merfolk enters the battlefield under our control, River Sneak gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So we have some other cards in the deck that make green creatures cheaper, like Ronus' Monument, for example, and it makes this guy trigger over and over again really quickly, and that means this is going to get in for 2, 3, maybe even 4 damage on a single turn. Moving up at the top of our curve, we have Vineshaper Mystic. It's a 4 here, it's a 1/3, 3-mana. When Vineshaper Mystic enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on up each to 2 target Merfolks you control. So again, Vineshaper Mystic is a great card for us on the play, playing this out on turn 3, giving 2 +1/+1 counters to, like, say, a River Sneak, and something else like a Kumina's Speaker or a Merfolk Branchwalker, things like that. The Vineshaper Mystic is just a fantastic play for us. It's a 1/3 that can block, or it can be a 2/4 that can actually attack out for us and have a decent body as well. But that is all the creatures we have in the deck. There are 24 in total. Let's go over spells here. We have 4 Blossoming Defense in the main board. This is a 1-mana instant. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 and hexproof until end of turn. This is a great way to, again, have your River Sneak or your Slitherblade get in for some extra points of damage, as well as kind of have them kind of get around any kind of spot removal that's in the format right now, because there is so much spot removal. A good way of knowing about spot removal is probably not playing out your Slitherblade or your River Sneak on turn 2 on the play, because your shields are going to be completely down, and usually that's when a shock, a lightning bolt, or a fatal push is going to come in and just snatch it from you and kind of slow down your momentum. So again, River Sneak and Slitherblade is almost always a turn 3 play for us, unless we know what kind of deck we're up against. So Blossoming Defense is a fantastic 1-mana tempo play for us. Moving up though, we have 2 Larger Than Life. This is a card that I actually kind of brought in at the late part of the deck building process. A 2-mana sorcery. This is a fantastic way to either close out the match or kind of make sure our opponent is like on the defense by the like turn 3, turn 4, to make sure that, okay, well, they're not going to play out their method of winning as quickly as possible, but they are going to play on defense and try and get our creatures either away with a spot removal, or maybe just bring in blockers so they can kind of block the other Merfolks that are coming into the face. Either way, Larger Than Life is fantastic for us and a great way to close out a match. Next up though, we have 3 River Herald's Boon. Because this is a Merfolk strategy, River Herald's Boon is a fantastic card for us. A 2-mana instant, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target Merfolk. So this actually works really well with the Slitherblade because it's not a Merfolk, so you can put a +1/+1 counter on the Slitherblade and then another on a River Sneak or Kumina's Speaker or Branchwalker or whatever Merfolk you have on the battlefield. It's a fantastic way to either pump and trade or pump and just get some extra damage in on your turn. And that's usually when we want to play it the most often. We want to play this on our turn because we want to be getting in as much damage as possible, as quickly as possible, to close out the match before they get to like turn 6, turn 7, to where they're kind of getting into more answers from their deck. That's it for spells. Let's go into artifacts here. We have 2 Lifecrafter's Bestiary, a 3-mana artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, scry 1, of course, and whenever you cast a creature spell, you may pay 1 green mana. If you do, draw a card. So this is kind of a card draw engine for us in the mid to late game. A great turn 3, turn 4 play if we have some creatures on the battlefield, and a great way to kind of like line up our plays in the mid to late game if our game does go long, so that we can kind of make sure that our deck is going to be drawing into answers as quickly as possible. Moving on from that though, we have 4 Ronus's Monument. This is a great card for us. A 3-mana legendary artifact. Green creature spells cost 1 less to cast, so that means all of our 2-mana green creatures actually are just 1-mana 1-drops now, and whenever we cast something, it gets +2/+2 to give to another creature on the battlefield. So usually we're going to give that to a Slitherblade or a River Sneak, and of course we can actually do this multiple times, and if we have things out like a Lifecrafter's Bestiary and we have the mana to do it, we can play a, say, Deeproot Champion for 1, tap a green, draw a card, and give a +2/+2 to a creature on our battlefield. So it's just, again, a lot of really good synergy, a lot of really good ways to kind of get in there for some extra damage. But that is it for all the cards in the main board. Let's go over lands real quick. We have 4 Hashep Oasis. So again, this is a great card for us because it can be a +3/+3 buff on our turn on our side of the field, but also can give us green mana, of course. And then we have 8 Forest and 9 Island. And that is the full 60 of the main board on game 1. So our strategy in game 1 is to get out our unblockable creatures, get in as quickly as possible, pump those up as much as we can, and kind of win by turn 6 or 7 if we can. But let's say we're up against a more heavy control strategy or a strategy with sweepers, things like that. What can we do in the sideboard? Let's go to that. We have 2 Dissenter's Deliverance. This is going to be basically representing any kind of a Marty Vehicle strategy, any kind of a Godpharaoh's Gift, things like that that kind of comes in and gives us a big headache. Dissenter's Deliverance is a 2-mana instant, destroy target artifact, and then has 1 green for cycling. Of course, if we don't need it, we can always just cycle it away. Then we have 3 Heroic Intervention. Sweepers are a pain in the butt to deal with. Things like Fumigate, Bontu's Last Reckoning. Heroic Intervention is going to help deal with that completely, and then of course represent a way to, again, get in turn over turn, thanks to our creature surviving the turn. This might be something to replace a River Herald's Boon, or a maybe the Vineshaper Mystic, or maybe 1 Ronus Monument. Again, just kind of like increasing the amount of protection that our creatures need to have against a matchup like that. Next up, we have 2 Jace's Defeat. This is a card I thought about not including, but I think there are enough Scarab Gods in the extra format right now that Jace's Defeat is pretty decent for us. It's a 2-mana instant, counter target blue spell. If it was a Jace Planeswalker spell, scry 2. So we're not going to really run into any Jace Planeswalkers, but we will run into a lot of blue creatures like a Scarab God or maybe a Bolas or something like that. And of course, it does counter just a blue spell overall, so a Dissolve, Negate, Essence Scatter, all that kind of stuff. Jace's Defeat is going to help deal with it. Next up, we have 3 Negate here. It's a fantastic card for us. It's a 2-mana instant, counter target non-creature spell. This is going to be probably the first card we board in against a strategy that isn't running blue, like a burn strategy like with red, or a removal strategy like with black. Negate's going to help kind of get in some extra protection for our creatures if we don't have a Blacksmith Defense in hand. Next up, we have 2 Crushing Canopy, because Glorybringer is a pain in the butt to deal with, and we have enchantments that are also difficult to deal with as well. It's a 3-mana instant, choose 1, destroy target creature with flying, or destroy target enchantment. And that is exactly what this does, and it does it really well at instant speed. Next up, we have a 1/of Run Aground. This is an interesting card for me because it's a 4-mana instant, put target artifact or creature on top of its owner's library. So this is a card we want to bring in to kind of like shut down, or slow down rather, a Godpharaoh's Gift strategy, any kind of Marty Vehicle strategy, because really all we need is 1 or 2 more turns to kind of get in with our attackers, our unblockable creatures, to close out the match. And Run Aground helps us do that really quickly. And then the last 2 cards in the sideboard for us, we have 2 River's Rebuke, a fantastic way to deal with tokens, and a go wide strategy. A 6-mana sorcery, return all non-land permanents target player controls to their owner's hand. River's Rebuke is a fantastic rare for us, and a great way to kind of make sure we can kind of either 1, elongate a match, or 2, close out a match, and that's exactly what it does. But that is it, guys. Let's go to the layout here. Again, on MTG Traders, it's only 12 tickets. This deck is super cheap. I think on paper it's about 30 bucks, something like that. But it's, again, a super fun deck, super fast, low to the ground, and a great way to say, hey, Merfolks are not necessarily tier 1 or 2, but they are a fun deck if you have nothing to deal with them early in the match. But of course, let me know what you guys think. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you have any kind of supplemental changes for it? Of course, any changes that would increase the price is something that I kind of wanted to get away from. I know that Shaper's Sanctuary was the card that I kind of brought in and brought out several times, but I did like that it was just out of the deck completely at the end of it, and Larger Than Life was taking its place. I think the power gain there was more necessary than the card draw advantage against a spot removal strategy. But of course, like the video if you like it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the bell right beside the subscription button to know when we upload a new video on the channel and when we go live on the stream right here on YouTube. But I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.